friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we're going to be talking about all the books that I've read so far in the month of September. It is currently September 17th and I have completed 8 books so far, which is right on track for me. I feel like I started a little bit slow, but in the last week or so have completed a couple that I was in the middle of. And so yeah, I have 8 books to talk about. Let's dive right in. The first book that I want to talk about is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is one that I picked up mainly because it was on the summer reading guide for Modern Mrs. Darcy and because I've heard quite a few people say they really enjoyed it. This is a YA historical fiction. It takes place mostly around World War I, a little bit in World War II as well, but we follow mainly these 4 young people who are involved with the war. 2 are soldiers, 2 are young women who serve with the YWCA in their kind of rec center. One of them is a pianist, and their love stories. The thing that sets this apart is that it's told by Greek gods like Aphrodite and Apollo and others that I don't remember their names. The Greek god storyline is kind of narrating what happens in the historical storyline. So it's a very interesting take on things. I flew through this very quickly, was very invested in the story, and I just thought it was a fun kind of twist on telling what can be slightly overdone. I don't think so, because I love war historical fiction, but it was interesting because it was World War I and not World War II, and that Greek god element was kind of fun as well, thrown in there. And the story of the 4 young people was very compelling as well. So I really enjoyed this. Glad that I picked this one up. Now I have to return it to my library. The next one I read, I have talked about already on my channel in my first weekend reading vlog from September, and that is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I don't need to talk about this too much because I talked about it quite a bit in that vlog. This is a romance. I was going to the beach one day and I needed something fun and light and fluffy-ish, and this totally fit the bill. It's definitely a little more steamy than I normally would prefer to read, but I liked the story of it. So this woman and man meet in an elevator one day, have a flirty, fun, quick-witted conversation with each other. He invites her to be his date at a wedding where he's headed for the weekend. This begins a relationship basically between the 2 of them. It starts out as kind of a fake dating, but then they have some obstacles to overcome, but ultimately it's the story of their romance together. I really enjoyed this, and I would be interested in reading more from Jasmine Guillory. I ended up, I think, giving it 4 stars. Then I read my first book for Kindred Spirit September, and that was Emily of New Moon by Ella Montgomery. Kindred Spirit September, if you don't know, is kind of a sort of a readathon where I just encourage people to pick up books, encourage you to pick up books written by Ella Montgomery, about Ella Montgomery, her journals, anything kind of related, retellings, anything related to Anne of Green Gables or Ella Montgomery's work or anything like that. I have never read the Emily series, and I did buddy read this with Emily from Novell Novels, and we both absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Emily has a lot of similarities to Anne. The adventurous spirit, gets herself into some scrapes, has a love of nature, a love of writing, ends up being an orphan. Her mom passes away before the story starts, and her dad passes away at the very beginning of this one. So she is sent to live with an 2 elderly aunts and an uncle, I believe. The elderly aunt is very Marilla-esque, very brusque and hard-hearted, it seems, and it took me a while to warm up to her, and I feel like because this is a trilogy, she will continue to grow more likable, in my opinion. The aunt, I still didn't love her by the end. She was really mean, I thought, to Emily for quite a bit of this book. But I love the character of Emily. I love her strength. I love her integrity, her honesty, her passion for her friends and for her family and for writing. Yeah, I thought this was a delightful read, and I'm really excited to continue with this trilogy. Emily of New Moon. Who knew? I mean, I kind of knew. It's Ella Montgomery. Of course I'm going to like it. Next, I picked up both of the books for the Goodreads Readalong. I finished both of them. This month, I have 2 books choices, as I am doing for the rest of this year. So the first one I finished is The Last Year of the War by Susan Meissner, and I did give this one 5 stars as well. I Susan Meisner is a favorite author for me. It's decided. This is the third book of hers that I've read, and I've loved all three of them. And I have like 3 or 4 more on my shelves, which I'm so excited about. In this one, we follow 2 young girls, both who are sent to Crystal City internment camp in Texas. One of them is a Japanese immigrant, is from a Japanese immigrant family, and the other one, the main one that we really follow, I forget her name, Elise. The main girl that we mainly follow through this is Elise, and her father is suspected of being a German sympathizer, and so he is arrested and taken away, and after a couple months the whole family is sent to live in this camp, and that's where the 2 girls meet and become really close friends, despite others kind of having hesitations about a German girl and a Japanese girl becoming such close friends. But they just don't see each other as German and Japanese. They really see each other as American, and really form a pretty strong bond that continues through letters even after they're gone for a little while. Both of them end up being sent back to Germany and Japan right in the midst of World War II. The town that the father is originally from is where they go to, and it ends up getting bombed. They have to hide out in bomb shelters. They have to see some horrific things as a young girl, and she kind of constantly longs to be 18 and go with Mariko back to New York. And this is kind of what she dreams of, and we just follow her story through all of this, and I was completely invested. I think I read through this so quickly, had a couple of quotes that I underlined that I just thought were so good. I really loved the writing. I loved the story. I loved how it ended. I felt very satisfied with the ending, even though it had me in tears, as most World War II stories do. I just really loved this. It was so good. 5 stars for sure. The other one that I just finished a couple days ago is The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd. I am not going to tell you what my rating was, although I guess if you follow me on Goodreads, you might already know. This was one of my 5-star predictions books, and I've been forgetting to not tell you what my ratings are. I did really enjoy this. This one takes place pre-Civil War in the South, in Georgia, and we follow Sarah Grimke and Hetty Handful Grimke. Sarah Grimke is the daughter of slave owners, and Hetty, or Handful, is one of the slaves, and Handful is given to Sarah when she turns 11 years old. And Sarah, even at such a young age, just knows that there's something wrong about that. Sarah Grimke is a real life person, and her and her sister were great speakers for the abolitionist movement in the North, in Philadelphia area, and in New England. They went to Boston a few times, and even early speakers for women's rights as well. And I didn't realize that until like halfway through the book, that it's based on real people, which is kind of cool. Handful's story is, she was a real person as well, but unfortunately she died at a young age in real life. So Sue Monk Kidd kind of imagined what her life would have been like had she lived. And so to have these 2 lives contrasting with each other, Handful and all the struggles that she faces growing up as a slave, and that desire to be free, and that desire to be seen as an equal, and all the little rebellions that she does along the way to kind of buck against the system in a way. That every chapter in this book goes back and forth between these 2 women, and it's very interesting to see Sarah, who is expected to be meek and mild and get married and run a household and have children, and she does not want to follow that expected path for her life. And then Handful, who is expected to be a slave and do as she's told and all of these things, and she also doesn't want to do what's expected of her. Very well written, very well told. I am so glad that I read this book. Then I also, I'm not going to tell you too much about this one because I just got done filming a one-day reading vlog for Foxheart by Claire Legrand. This is the book that was chosen for me for Booklist Thursday. So on Thursday coming up, you will hear all of my thoughts on this one. I'm actually Not going to tell you anything right now. It's a middle grade fantasy. I'll just tell you what it's about, right? We follow this young girl named Quicksilver and her dog named Fox as they go on these magical adventures to fight good and evil. I will be sharing a lot more about this book on Thursday. Then today I finished what is probably the most beautiful book I've read in a long time, and that's The Landscapes of Anne of Green Gables. This book was so kindly gifted to me by Becca Hicks for my birthday, and it's gorgeous. And I'm really wanting to show you this because I showed you some of the pictures in which we kind of take a photographic tour through some of the sites of Prince Edward Island and some historical, like, archive pictures from Ella Montgomery, which is cool. But I was very excited because when I read hardcovers with a jacket, I take them off while I'm reading. And when I took this one off, it's so pretty. There's a little Anne and it's gold, like rose gold foil. It's so pretty. And then on the inside, we have this map of Prince Edward Island. It's just a stunning book. And I gave this one 4 stars for the writing and the content, and then bumped it up to a 5-star because the whole production and quality and the photographs and layouts and everything was just so well done. It's just a stunning book. This is a nonfiction, and we do kind of get a tour, a little bit of Ella Montgomery and her life on Prince Edward Island and the importance of nature and different geographic locations on Prince Edward Island and the importance of them in Ella Montgomery's life and her childhood and in her writing as well. Not just in Anne of Green Gables, but a lot from Anne of Green Gables, but in other snippets of her journals and other writings. And other writings of hers as well. So this is a stunning book. I gave it 5 stars. Thank you so much, Becca. I'm so glad that this is on my shelves. And this is my second book that I read for Kindred Spirit September. I also just finished listening today to Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a British rom-com-ish kind of a book about a main character who is, I almost said African American, she's not, she's British, a black British woman who has fibromyalgia and lives in this apartment building complex thing, and the superintendent of the building, Red, I think his name is Red, which is kind of ironic because he has red hair and he's kind of this big burly man, and she is not a tiny girl, which I loved. And it's just their story of meeting and falling in love and the first impressions that they had of each other that were quite wrong. And I liked that she had this physical condition that hindered her from doing so many things, but she made these lists. She would make these lists of ways to kind of fight against her physical limitations and to force herself to have a life and not just hide in her apartment. She had been burned pretty badly by an ex-fiance or boyfriend and her friend group from before, so she had a lot to work through, and Red himself had a past relationship that had scarred him pretty badly, and so they had to work through a lot of that stuff. It was a good book. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. And definitely, I listened to it on audio, on Hoopla, through my library, and I definitely had to push that 15-minute fast forward over and over and over because there was quite a few steamy scenes in this one. It is definitely not on the clean side of things. It's definitely very open door, but I skip ahead through all of that stuff. And then I'm currently reading right now The Switch by Beth O'Leary. I just started this one like yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. So far, it's lovely. I'm really enjoying it. There are a few things that I'm predicting at this point are going to happen, but I'm still really enjoying this, and I am looking forward to continuing it. Since I finished my last Kindred Spirit book, I've picked another one from my pile here, and next I'm going to start Before Green Gables, which is a prequel to Anne of Green Gables. I've heard such lovely things about this one. This is on my 2020 recommendations cart. This is written by Budge Wilson, and it kind of imagines Anne's life before coming to Prince Edward Island. So she is in a couple different foster homes. We may meet her parents who die when Anna's a baby. The orphanage, we'll get some scenes from there as well. And I've heard people say that they just wanted to give this book a big hug when they finished it, and I'm really excited for that. I feel like I read a couple like war and heavy historical fiction already this month, and I'm still kind of in the mood for lighter and fun. So I'm hoping that this one, even though I feel like it's going to deal with grief quite a bit, I also am finding it to be on the lighter side of things, and I feel like this will have that same kind of like deal with some heavier things but also be very tender and heartwarming, and I'm looking forward to that. So that is it. I would love to know, what is the best book you've read so far this month in September? How is your reading going? Are you switching over to fallish kind of vibes yet? This week we finally had some cooler weather, and today has just been like rainy and drizzly. I have the window open right next to me and I'm listening to the rain as I'm sitting there, and it's kind of lovely. Not gonna lie, I'm really enjoying it. I know if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you're working your way into summer as we are working our way out of summer. So you're hitting some springtime right now, and I hope that you're enjoying that. As always, I would love to chat with you down in the comments about these books, about anything else that you want to talk about. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye.